Hey everyone, welcome to the Middle School Visual Arts PLC group. My name is Alicia Montgomery and I'm the moderator for this group. I'm so glad that you've joined this community. It was really created with you in mind, and our goal here is to collaborate and support each other as we navigate the craziness of teaching middle school visual arts. Whether you're the only one in your system or one of many, we know that you're going to find things that are going to help you here. In order to make this as beneficial as possible, please make sure to set up your notifications and check back often for post and discussion questions. All right, our second episode of Classroom and Materials Management, we're going to deal with consequences and behavior management. So in the art room, having good classroom management is really imperative. The first step in having good classroom management is letting students know what the rules are and what expectations you have for them. You also have to really teach those expectations. You can't just expect them to know them. I've also posted these in my classroom to serve as daily reminders. I refer students to them as needed. Hey, what does number 1 tell us to do or how we're supposed to act in my classroom? To see how I establish that in my classroom, you can watch the previous episode on rules and expectations. But just a quick review, the rules for my classroom are to be respectful, follow directions the first time, keep hands, feet, and objects to yourself, no cell phones unless it is a bring your own technology day, no food, drink, or gum, bring all your materials to class, and obey all school rules. I also make sure that I give students a syllabus and send it home to parents with a handout, but also via remind, email, or whatever contact way your school uses. That way, everybody knows what's expected of them in art. In my syllabus, I include a description of my class, the grading policy, our class procedures and work ethics, materials, late assignments, our late assignment policy, my contact information, our classroom rules, our restroom policy, and our technology policy. Right? The next step in having good classroom management is establishing rules and teaching them. Establishing routines and teaching them. Most middle school students want to do the right thing, but you got to teach them how to do it and make them know that you're going to hold them accountable for doing that each day. I usually spend the first week or two going over these steps every single day. Then I move on to the do now part. So I walk them through how to do this in baby steps as well, because I found if I just say, okay, I want you to draw this, then I might end up with some teeny tiny little in the middle. And I want them to fill up the pages when they do their drawing. So that's something that we spend a lot of time the first couple of weeks kind of talking about what I expect from them, their drawings and all of those things. So the arrival routine for my classroom is to come into my classroom and either clean your hands. You can either use hand sanitizer or you can wash them at the sink, whichever you prefer. Then put your cell phone away in my cell phone bin. Get your pencil out and sharpen it if needed. Go to your assigned seat. And then begin the do now silently. Them being in their assigned seats helps me to check a roll very quickly and to learn names. All right, and the do now gives them something to do the second they walk in my door, which helps cut down on a lot of our discipline issues, playing and things like that. Our do now, I begin after the routine of coming into my classroom is established. So I stop posting all of those clean your hands, go to your seat, get your pencil stuff, and start posting just their do now. So by this time, they know that they do the routine that we've already discussed and start on this. So the do now is something that we do the first 10 minutes of class every day. It's kind of a warm up for the creative side of their brain. They do a complete drawing, but I break it down into 4 parts. They do a different part each day. The first 3 days are always the drawing part, and then the 4th day is always the color, whatever it is they've created, color or shade. It always has a theme, then the prompt, and then some guiding questions. So the theme may be something like an outer space drawing. The prompt may be to draw your planets where your creatures are going to live. And then your guiding questions might be things like, what shape are your planets? Are they in a solar system? Is there a Milky Way? What do your plants have on them? What does the environment on your planets look like? And then the next day it may be, okay, now you're going to draw some kind of living creatures. The next day, how are they going to move around? And then the last day is always to color. So this gives me time to take roll, catch up absent students, send notes home about homework assignments for students that have been absent, those kinds of things. Okay? And then the next thing I work on with my students is how to work during what we call studio time. I spend time teaching these steps also. So if needed, I'll review them during the work time if students need reminding. So I make sure to remind them to stay on task, follow instructions, ask questions if you need to. A lot of students feel uncomfortable asking questions. So I teach them that it's okay to do that and how to do that appropriately. Raise your hand. Don't call Miss Montgomery 15 times. Use your materials safely and only as they're intended. So we talk about how to not paint on each other. Don't draw on your skin. How to use the rulers and erasers appropriately and take good care of them. Keep your area clean. Make sure that you're using an appropriate noise level so you're talking softly when you're allowed to and only to the people in your area. Stay in your work area, whether that's at your table or at the counter or at a computer. Make sure that you're staying where you're supposed to be. You're not roaming around the room talking to your buddies. And then be kind and respectful. So once I've done all this preliminary work of establishing all of these things, I can focus on managing just the problems that come up. The two biggest things that are to have really high expectations for your students, right? Most of them are going to live up to this. And consistency, right? Especially with middle school students. You've got to be consistent and fair. If you aren't fair or you're inconsistent, they will call you on it. And you're going to lose their respect really quickly. So I use several techniques in my classroom. And one of those things is establishing work ethics and talking to students about how that's going to prepare them for a career or a job when they get older. So there are lots of ways that I do classroom management. Work ethics is one, a 3-2-1 policy, proximity to those students, calls home, and the fix-it area. So I'm going to talk with you about those things next. All right, my first one is work ethics. Work ethics are things that they should be doing anyway. It's like attendance, making sure they're here and they're here on time, character, responsibility, teamwork and cooperation, productivity, and I explain to them that's using their time wisely, respect, and I tell them not just respect for me, but respect for each other and yourself, and organization. And so the way this works is they get 20 points every day. They have a sheet that looks like this one in the background. I've just zoomed in so you can see it better. I always put the dates at the top. If they're absent, I just put a big A on it to remind myself and them that they were absent. And then at the end of 5 class days, they get a grade in the grade book. We'll add up all their points for those 5 days. So the way that it works is if they commit an offense, if they're tardy without a pass, if they're talking during instruction, if they're daydreaming repeatedly after I've redirected them, then they lose 5 points for each offense. If they have any kind of severe issues and lose all their points for the day, then that usually is because of an office referral. Most of the time, if I have to mark any students, it's just once. Once they see that I'm going to mark their sheet, then they're like, oh, let me get myself refocused. So that's one way that I kind of handle this. Another way that I handle classroom management is I use a method to gain their attention called 3-2-1. I explain to my students that when I get to 1, they should have empty hands, their mouths should be closed, and their eyes should be on me. So anyone that doesn't will be reminded once, and then they'll lose points off their work ethics. So I'll say, okay, give me your attention, 3, 2, 1. And that gives them just a second to finish drawing that shape they're drawing, or gives them time to put down their paintbrush or to finish that sentence that they're saying to their neighbor. It just gives them a kind of minute to kind of regroup and get themselves together and be ready for whatever I'm going to tell them. Another thing that I do is proximity. A lot of times if students are following your expectations and they know what those are, and it's studio or instruction time, a lot of times all I have to do is just go stand close to their group. And so then if they're getting a little distracted or a little too loud, when they realize I'm kind of watching them, they'll tone back down and zone back in and do what they need to do. So being in proximity to those students helps a lot too. So if these things aren't helping, I have a little area in my classroom in the corner that's called the Fix-It desk, and this is my Fix-It desk. On this desk, there are the instructions for what they're supposed to do, so they can't say, well, I forgot what I'm supposed to do. But there's a basket there. In that basket, there's a little card, and on that card, there's 4 questions. There's also a pencil there, so they don't have to bring one with them. And so let's say, for example, they were talking while I was talking or while I was giving instructions. So I would call their name, ask them to go to the Fix-It area, and then they're going to put their name and the date on that card. The first thing they're going to do is tell me what they did. The second thing they're going to do is tell me what they want. So that gives them a chance if they were doing something legitimate, like asking for a pencil, okay, to kind of tell me that. And then number 4, what should you have done? So if I sent them over there because they were talking while I was talking, they might put something like, I wanted to know what they did over the weekend. Okay? Or if it was legitimate, I was asking to borrow a pencil. So that gives them a chance to explain to me what was going on. And, I was answering her question or whatever it was. And that gives them some entitlement to feel like, okay, I'm empowered because she's going to listen to what I say. Then, what is it that you wanted? And then what should you have done? Well, I should have waited till lunchtime to ask what they were doing over the weekend. Or I should have raised my hand and asked for a pencil. And so this is just kind of like a warning for them. And I tell them, this is your chance to reset your behavior in my classroom. Remember my expectations of you. Be mature 6th or 7th graders and kind of pull yourself back together. And so most of the time, if I see my students here, we don't have any more issues. There are, those students that just want to try and push their buttons. So if they have to get to a second offense, I'll pull them from the group and I'll have them write a paragraph about what they did. Middle school kids hate to write about things that they've done. So we do that. It's just a short paragraph, 3 to 5 sentences, and then they go back to what they were supposed to be doing. But our school has a behavior log that they do, and after so many marks on their behavior log, there's calls home, and then there's an office referral. So on the second offense, this starts the behavior log. The third offense is I'll pull them from their group. It's the second offense on their behavior log. They have to copy some rules and fill out a behavior sheet that they then have to take home and get signed by their parents. And then I also make some type of parent contact, whether it's a phone call or an email or a message on Remind, so that we can get back on track and I can get the parents involved so they know what's going on as well. Another thing that I have issues with is misuse of materials. So the first thing I do is I make sure and talk to students and tell them, teach them how I expect them to treat materials. So we're not helicopter pilots. We're not going to put our ruler on our pencil and spin it around. And we're not pirates. We're not going to sword fight with them. Our erasers are not projectiles. We're not going to throw them or carve into them or things like that. And so if I catch students abusing materials or misusing them, painting or drawing on others, throwing things, they're going to lose the use of that material. And if it prevents them from doing their project, then they're going to be given an alternate assignment. And then the last issue we have is, and this is a school-wide policy, these are our severe clauses. So any type of fighting or aggressive behavior, trying to intimidate another student physically, all right, bullying, cursing, any type of sexual harassment, extreme defiance or disrespect, cheating. And I talk to my students about, if you're doing somebody else's artwork for them, that's still cheating. And it's just like if you did their math homework for them. All right, stealing, anything to do with drugs, alcohol, or weapons, damaging school property. And I lump our art materials in with this often. Skipping or public displays of affection are immediate office referrals, and they lose all their work ethics points for the day if it's one of these issues. So that's kind of how I deal with my classroom management. If you have any questions or comments, please don't hesitate to let me know. Thank you for joining us. Take a few minutes to participate in our discussion question, and I can't wait to hear your wonderful ideas. Don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss out on any of the updates and posts. Happy teaching!